to the proceedings.
This Honorable House now resumes its sitting. Call of the roll.
Mrs. Holness? Here. Mr. Bartlett? Mr. Holness? Dr. Clark? Dr. Chang? Mr. Shaw, John, Mr. Samuda, Ms. Grange, Mrs. Williams, Mrs. Malawi Fort, Dr. Tufton, Mr. McKenzie, Mr. Chuck, Mr. Vaz, Mr. Warmington, Mr. Charles, Mr. Green, Mr. Morgan, Mr. Hutchinson, Mr. Terry Long, Ms. Smith, Dr. Dunn, Mrs. Cuthbert Flynn, Mr. Main, Mr. Davis, Mr. Witter, Mr. Brown, Dr. Brownberg, Dr. Charles, Mr. Chin, Mr. Clark, Mr. Cousins, Ms. Crawford, Ms. Daly, Ms. Davis, Mr. Hutchinson, Ms. Davis, Mr. Golding, Mr. Graham, Dr. Guy, Ms. Hamilton, Ms. Hannah, Mr. Henriquez, Mr. Henry, Mr. Hilton, Mr. Jackson, Mr. Lawrence, Ms. Lee, Mr. Miller, Mr. Montague, Mrs. Nita Garvey, Miss Morrison, Mr. Paulwell, Mr. Phillips, Dr. Phillips, Mr. Robertson, Mr. Robinson, Mr. Siblist, Mr. Slowly, Mrs. Vaz, Dr. Wheatley, Mr. Williams, Mr. Wilson, Mr. Wright, Mr. Davis,
Madam Speaker, I ask for the suspension of the standing orders to go straight to public business.
Members, the question before the House is that there is a suspension of the items on the agenda and that we move straight to the item entitled with the caption public business. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. House Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today, we will continue the State of Constituency debate with contributions from the following members. The member from St. Elizabeth Southeastern, the Honorable Franklin Witter, and the member from Westmoreland Eastern, Mr. Daniel Lawrence. In that order, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Madam Speaker, because we are at public business, I just need some guidance. There is a joint select committee on the Integrity Commission. No, I just want to know how, as a MP, I can make a submission. I need guidance. How do I make a submission? Because I'm not a civil society group, I'm not a professional group, but I have some ideas. For example, Madam Speaker, I would like to see an amendment to the Integrity Commission Act.
Member, just without even checking the standing orders, on the top of my head, once the committee meets, you can have a private word with a member of the committee, and then they can, as they do in some committees, open it out for contributions and papers to be done. So you can have a discussion with one of the members from the group.
Madam Speaker, may I please speak from a seat other than my own? I'm a member of the committee, and in response to Member Montague from Western St. Mary, he may actually send a written submission to the Commission requesting, as we have had Jamaicans for Justice NIA Integrity Commission, to attend the next committee meeting and be heard.
Very well, member. So you can actually seek permission in writing.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Sorry, Speaker. He may send a memo to the committee clerk for the Integrity Commission committee.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for that information, because I do have some thoughts and ideas that I would want to be considered on the Integrity Commission.
Okay, thank you very much. I now call on the member from St. Elizabeth Southeastern to make his contribution to the state of the Constituency.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I am indeed humbled as I stand here in this honorable house to give an account of my stewardship in the constituency of St. Elizabeth Southeastern. Madam Speaker, this is not a lone journey. And for this reason, Madam Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to thank all those who have been a part of this voyage. First of all, Madam Speaker, I want to commend you and the entire parliamentary staff for the way you discharge your responsibilities in ensuring that this honorable house continues its long, rich tradition of great service to the people of Jamaica and beyond. Madam Speaker, I also want to thank and commend the Most Honorable Prime Minister for the high-quality leadership that he is providing for this country, and also, Madam Speaker, for the confidence that he has reposed in me for allowing me to be a part of this great administration. Madam Speaker, this kind of leadership has given rise to a renewed and blessed hope that prosperity is now within our reach. Madam Speaker, as I come to the end of my salutations, I just want to say to my colleagues on both sides of the House, that I thank you for your support. I also want to thank my constituency executive, my hard-working councillors, caretaker, my devoted constituents, my immediate family, and Madam Speaker, I always love to save the best wine for the last.
Absolutely.
Therefore, Madam Speaker, I want to thank the Almighty God for his mercies and grace. For guiding my life. And Madam Speaker, I also want to show my appreciation, love and thanks to my beautiful, dedicated and committed wife, Normally.
Yes.
Who I know most of us in this honorable house would know that she is really the backbone of the constituency of South East St. Louis. Madam Speaker, I will now move to reflect on the issues in relation to the current state of the constituency of St. Elizabeth Southeastern. And I will begin by just adding my support to my colleagues on both sides of the House for an increase in the CDF allocation. But, Madam Speaker, whilst I concur and I'm sympathetic to the call of my colleagues, I also want to remind us that it was this administration, under the leadership of this Prime Minister, that has increased the CDF to $20 million, up from $15 million, which was as a result of a reduction imposed by the People's National Party's administration. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I have no doubt in my mind that our Minister of Finance and our Prime Minister will certainly do what is in the best interest of all of us as we continue on this road to recovery. Madam Speaker, the issue of water has always been the greatest challenge for the people of St. Elizabeth Southeastern. Madam Speaker, when I took over this constituency, pipe water could only be found in a mere 20% of the entire constituency. 20% of the entire constituency. But no, Madam Speaker, with the effort of the Member of Parliament, yours truly, and the response of a caring government.
Absolutely.
The people of St. Elizabeth Southeastern can now boast a domestic water supply coverage of almost 60%. And Madam Speaker, as we continue to expand this program, we are looking to add another 20% of the constituency with the supply of pipe water in the coming year or two. But in the meantime, Madam Speaker, I want to commend the Honorable Minister of Local Government for providing us with 4 water shops that are now providing 60,000 gallons of domestic water to various communities on a weekly basis. And these, Madam Speaker, are some of the communities that we are unable to reach at this point with pipe water. So in the interim, the Minister of Local Government has come in and give us the support that we need to ensure that these communities have potable water. Madam Speaker, we are also confronted with the issue of irrigation water. And as most Jamaicans are aware, St. Elizabeth, and in particular Southeast St. Elizabeth, has always been regarded as the breadbasket of Jamaica. Notwithstanding the difficulties we face on a yearly basis in respect of seasonal drought. Madam Speaker, this government, having been called upon by the Jamaican people to provide leadership that will certainly lead us to prosperity, has responded to the plight of the farmers. And as we speak, Madam Speaker, we are now in the implementation stage of the long-awaited Excess Valley irrigation project. This, Madam Speaker, will see the build-out of 75 kilometers of pipelines, irrigating over 800 hectares of arable land and benefiting hundreds of farmers across the constituency and also sections of my neighboring South Manchester. And I know that my colleague South Manchester is very happy. Madam Speaker, this will be a game changer, as it will also provide marketing support and post-harvesting facility, which will address the prevailing problem of periodic glut and waste of valuable produce. So, Madam Speaker, as we seek to irrigate the land, as our farmers are prepared to produce more, then we must also capture the area of the marketing facility and the post-harvesting to ensure that when they produce, we are able to take the crops from the farmers. Madam Speaker, this project is expected to be completed in 2024. But in the meantime, Madam Speaker, we continue to give support to our farmers by providing various kinds of inputs. These include fertilizer, small drip irrigation system, seeds, herbicides, pesticides. And this exercise, Madam Speaker, has benefited almost 2,000 farmers in the constituency. Madam Speaker, I must commend and thank the Jamaica Social Investment Fund, JSIF, for their support in respect of the irrigation aspect of this initiative. Madam Speaker, education. This is one of the most important conduits through which our nation can and will prosper. And by virtue of our acknowledgement, Madam Speaker, of the importance of education, this government has really put in place, put its mouth where, the money where its mouth is. Yes. Yes. When we speak as a government, we act. Madam Speaker, this government has provided an additional $3 million through the CDF, as a Constituency Development Fund, for our education assistance program. This has allowed me, Madam Speaker, to access $8 million to give support to needy students at all levels of the education system. Madam Speaker, over 2,000 students benefited from this. That's right. Madam Speaker, I also want to thank the Minister of Education for her vision and foresight in responding to the challenges of our students during the COVID-19 period. Madam Speaker, with the Own Your Own Device program, initiated by the Ministry of Education, and with support from private sector, a vast majority of students in my constituency now have access to an educational electronic device. Madam Speaker, this access would be of very little help without ensuring that we have connectivity. Madam Speaker, the visionary leadership provided by this administration has ensured that as we put educational electronic devices in the hands of our students, the necessary broadband and Wi-Fi systems are also in place to connect them. Madam Speaker, I want to thank the Minister of Science, Energy and Technology for equipping my constituency with 5 major sites providing Wi-Fi services to several communities at various access points.
Transformational.
Madam Speaker, COVID-19 has taught us an important lesson as to the importance of being able to respond to unusual health challenges. And today, Madam Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to commend the Ministry of Health and its team at the Ministry of Health for their response to the challenges that confronted the nation during the spike and height of the COVID pandemic. Madam Speaker, my constituency has recorded one of the highest vaccination rates in the country. Southeast Central has recorded one of the highest vaccination rates in the country. And I believe that this was highly, Madam Speaker, as a result of the great work that was done by the ministry's team in St. Elizabeth. And I want to commend the minister and his team at the ministry for the effort in that regard. Madam Speaker, I just want to note that notwithstanding the difficulties faced by the Ministry of Health during the pandemic, my minister, our minister, was still able to respond to my request for improvement at one of my major clinics in the constituency. And by virtue of this, Madam Speaker, on the 27th of this month, a contract signing will take place at Malvern for the refurbishing of that health facility at a cost of almost $30 million. Madam Speaker, as I continue to express on behalf of the people of Southeast St. Elizabeth our sincere appreciation to the Andrew Holness-led government for the positive impact his stewardship is having on our constituency, it gives me great pleasure to know that the long-standing problem of land registration and titling, which has plagued my constituency, is now trending to be a thing of the past. This is with the new and improved systematic land registration program that has been introduced by our Prime Minister. Madam Speaker, hundreds of landowners in St. Elizabeth Southeastern are now happily in possession of their titles.
Transformational.
Madam Speaker, as we boast this very important exercise of land registration, I just want to remind my Honorable Minister of Finance that as he contemplates the improvement of the tax collection system, and with the anticipated increase in the number of titles that will be issued, and with the current difficulties that is now being experienced at the Black River and Santa Cruz tax office. We have great challenges when you walk into the tax office at Santa Cruz and Black River in respect of overcrowding and loss of time. I just want to take this opportunity to renew my call and that of the people of St. Elizabeth Southeastern for a tax collection center in the fastest growing town in Jamaica, Junction, St. Elizabeth. And Madam Speaker, we have already identified a government building which is unoccupied and has good parking space and could be fitted with the necessary amenities of a tax collection center. Madam Speaker, as you travel along the road in St. Elizabeth Southeastern, you will notice that we always continue to maintain these roadways. Except, Madam Speaker, for the occasional problem of leaking pipes which sometimes undermine our efforts. Madam Speaker, the Minister would fall in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, the member from Southwest St. Catherine, and the Minister of Local Government continues to give me tremendous support. And I continue to use my CDF, as I mentioned in previous presentation, that I always seek to use my CDF to do mainly infrastructure work. With that consolidation, Madam Speaker, our roads continue to be in reasonably fair condition. Madam Speaker, as we continue to improve on these roadways, we are now embarking on several projects over the next 3 to 5 months. Madam Speaker, these include patching and rehabilitation of the following areas: Top Hill to Southfield, Bull Savannah to Shadow Hill, Cheapside to Delightful, Ballas Valley to Triad, Woodside, Cheapside, Benton, Mount Olivet, Malvern, Monroe, Honnigan Town, Top Hill, Falcombe, Town, Ebankstown, and Ridge to Senior Town. Falcombe. These are some of the roadways that we are trying to do over the next 3 to 5 months. Madam Speaker, I just want to touch a little on the issue of housing. Hot topic. Madam Speaker, housing, or the lack thereof, was never a substantive issue of concern in my constituency. Madam Speaker, I think that those of us who would have traveled through Southeast St. Elizabeth from time to time would notice that we really don't have a serious housing issue. And I think my colleague from Southwest would agree that the South. Madam Speaker, the people of Southeastern St. Elizabeth has always been very keen in making sure that they invest a good portion of their hard-earned income in providing reasonably good housing solutions for their family. Yes. That is a part of our culture in South Central. It is a part of our culture. Very nice. But, Madam Speaker, even though these favorable conditions gives a true reflection of the state of the housing situation in the constituency of Southeastern St. Elizabeth, we still have a small minority of persons who remain in need of the government social intervention program. And for this reason, Madam Speaker, we welcome the government New Hope housing program, which is now providing a number of high quality, high quality, and I stress the point.
Not just one nigga one.
This is something that is totally different from what we have become accustomed to over the years under previous administration.
Yes.
We are now having high quality housing solution for those who might not be able to do so independently.
Absolutely.
This, Madam Speaker, is a clear indication of this government's commitment in improving the quality of life for our people.
Transformational.
Madam Speaker, as I close, I want to use this opportunity to reassure the people of St. Elizabeth Southeastern
Yes, sir.
that as you continue to support me as your member of parliament,
Absolutely.
I will equally do my best to ensure that I continue to serve you with dignity and commitment,
Yes.
so that Southeastern St. Elizabeth, and by extension Jamaica, may under God improve in beauty and prosperity. Thank you. God bless.
Well done, my brother.
Madam Speaker, a great presentation from a veteran politician. A veteran politician. And now, Madam Speaker, I ask you to invite, let's give the member from St. Elizabeth Southeastern, the Honorable Franklin Witter, another big round of applause. So, Madam Speaker, I now ask you to invite the Member of Parliament from Westmoreland Eastern, Mr. Daniel Lawrence, to make his presentation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, permission to stand at a seat that is not my own.
Permission is granted, member.
Thank you. It is with great privilege that I rise in this honorable house, and this my second occasion in the state of the constituency debate to report to the Parliament and to the nation on the recovery, rebuilding, and restoration of Westmoreland Eastern.
Many more to come.
As I reflect upon my role in the constituency, I am reminded by Proverbs 3, verse 5 and 6. To trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. Madam Speaker, with the God of Daniel by our side, under the ethical leadership of the Most Honorable Prime Minister Andrew Holness and team, Jamaica is recovering stronger.
Absolutely.
Madam Speaker, permission to pay a special recognition to my family, who have stood with me through thick and thin, and also my constituents in Westmoreland East, who entrusted me with this dignified responsibility in the constituency. I must acknowledge my divisional leaders, Councillor Caretaker Caroline Ramsey from the Betheltown Division, Councillor Caretaker Richard Clare from the Leamington Division, Councillor Caretaker Godfrey Walters from the Darliston Division, and Councillor Caretaker Elviga Francis from the White House Division.
Not for long.
To my constituency management team, who have all been the elastic in the constituency that still manages to regain their shape even when stretched. A special thank you for your continued support. Madam Speaker, I must also thank my fellow colleagues for their support and guidance as we continue to work hand in hand for the betterment of the people of Jamaica.
That's right, Master.
Madam Speaker, Westmoreland Eastern is in the rebuilding process. We are building the roads, improving education, assisting with overseas employment opportunities. Helping with sustainable farming, assisting small business operators, and we are working assiduously to ensure each and every household has portable drinking water. Madam Speaker, education is the most powerful weapon for changing the world. For education this fiscal year, we decided to host 4 back-to-school treats and health fair in order to assist parents with their preparation for back to school. These treats were held in strategical locations across the constituency: the Virgil O'Connor Basic School in Betheltown, the Ashton Primary School in Leamington, and Darliston Primary School in the Darliston Division, and the Seaview Lawn in White House Division. Students were treated to free medical checkups. Over 1,500 school bags, lunch bags, books, pencils, and rulers were distributed to students. Additionally, another 2 million was spent on book vouchers, and it doesn't stop there. Madam Speaker, through my office, I also engage in distribution of tuition vouchers for university students. This large investment in education, Madam Speaker, is to ensure that students all have necessary tools for their educational accomplishment. Madam Speaker, in my first presentation in Parliament, I made mention of the collaboration with the USF to install Wi-Fi hotspot in the constituency in an attempt to bridge this digital divide. Today, I am happy to say that the White House, Darliston, and Betheltown town centers are now currently benefiting from access to free Wi-Fi. Special thanks to Minister Darrell Vaz and the team at Universal Service Fund for this initiative. Madam Speaker, it would be remiss of me not to mention the hard-working teachers who are working tirelessly to provide a good quality education for the nation's children. You have all been doing an extraordinary job. We applaud your commitments. As we continue the work with the school in our constituency, we are leaving no stones unturned as we seek to reignite education sector, one school at a time. Madam Speaker, sporting activities in Westmoreland Eastern came to a standstill since the onset of COVID-19. Madam Speaker, Westmoreland Eastern has produced many outstanding sporting heroes. We are blessed with the likes of West Indies Test cricketer Jermaine Blackwood, national player Derval Green, Nicholas Garden and Kennar Lewis, and even Kate Wilmot, who has called up to represent West Indies women cricket. She is set to join the West Indies female squad Sunday in Trinidad and Tobago for a tour in India. These are just a few names, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we are re-engaging all the sporting disciplines in our constituency. Madam Speaker, if you play jacks, come to Westmoreland Eastern, we will make you into a champion. No sporting discipline will be excluded as we strive for great excellence in sports. Madam Speaker, fishing has evolved over the years and has now become a means of income for most persons in White House, Madam Speaker. The fishing industry in my constituency, White House and surrounding areas to be exact, was a thriving industry. There were incentives to offset some of the expenses on the fisher folks. Today, there is little or no incentives that could encourage younger persons living in the area to join the industry. The folks who remain in the industry are having severe challenges with large vessels such as lobster boats coming to fish in our local waters and damaging the fish traps. Madam Speaker, they cannot provide for their families while constantly losing their traps and have to start all over from scratch. I am asking the Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries, the Honorable Pernell Charles Jr., to intervene on behalf of the fisher folks and to also include some subsidies for them to stay afloat. With fishing prices rising and encouraging younger fisher folks to the industry, as the average age, Madam Speaker, is over 50. Madam Speaker, the road leading to the fishing village in White House was promised to be rehabilitated by the former Minister of Agriculture, the Honorable Floyd Green, and we are still awaiting the rehabilitation. Yeah. Madam Speaker, more than 2/3 of our workforce in Westmoreland Eastern are farmers. This industry has somewhat benefited from COVID-19 as it encourages more persons to get involved in the creative farming practices. But, Madam Speaker, there is a large dependence on the industry. It is struggling. The Rural Agriculture Development Agency has registered a record number of new farmers this year. Madam Speaker, through the RADA Phase 1 and Phase 2, $50 million boiler program, over 20 farmers have benefited with a minimum of 50-day-old chicks and feed. 10 farmers were given water tanks and irrigation system. 70 bags of fertilizer were also distributed to farmers through RADA. Thank you, Minister. Thumbs up. The farmers really benefited. From the CDF allocation, approximately 100 farmers have received day-old chicks and feeds, fertilizers, and also farming tools and supplies. Madam Speaker, our only functioning fruit and vegetable market within the constituency is in White House, is the White House market. Yet it is in a very deplorable condition. Last December, over 4 truckloads of garbage and debris were removed from the market in the December NSWMA cleanup. Minister Mackenzie, during one of his tours in Westmoreland Eastern, visited the market, wanting to rehabilitate the market, only to find out that the market was leased. Madam Speaker, presently no one is selling grown produce inside the market structure. Minister Mackenzie, is there any word as yet on the market situation? Because the vendors have to build stalls for themselves or sell on the ground. Yet, Madam Speaker, they have to be paying market fees.
Shame. Shame. We need answers. Need answers.
Yeah, we need some answers on that. Madam Speaker, everyone is desirous for an opportunity to travel on the farm work program to assist their families to live a more meaningful life. I am at the top of my lungs shouting a big thank you to Minister Carl Samuda for the portion we have received this year. And
That's right.
and looking forward to assisting more constituents with the same opportunity in the coming year. Madam Speaker, water is life. Yeah, definitely. A commodity which is difficult for man to survive without. I believe that the value of water is even more than gold and diamond. And this is undoubtedly evident. The issue of water is number one in Westmoreland Eastern. Water is mentioned in the Bible more than any other resources. Madam Speaker, this should give us an idea of how important water is to the existence of every living thing on this planet. We all depend on water. This commodity is very scarce in Westmoreland Eastern. Even though we blessed with numerous sources of water, Westmoreland Eastern has been and continue to struggle with poor water supplies. The Roaring River source that supplies a section of the constituency is not reaching most areas. The other section of the constituency depends on the Cambridge and Danchort source, which are both located in St. James. Yeah. And oftentimes there is no water coming from all the sources due to turbidity or low water supplies. Madam Speaker, the water is at Roaring River. The connections are there to take the water into Betheltown, and all it needs is the capacity to bring water into Betheltown and other areas. Yeah. Madam Speaker, I am determined to get it done. Madam Speaker, Westmoreland Eastern boasts a lot of rivers and springs that runs constantly even during drought periods. The Robbins River, the Beeson Spring, the Cave River flows all year round and only for recreational purposes. Madam Speaker, I am requesting a tour from the Minister with responsibility for water in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation to visit these water sources that we can conceptualize a plan to have portable water flowing through the pipes of every household.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Madam Speaker, the Danchort pumping station received a new pump, and repairs was also done to the broken lines leading from the pump house. And now communities like Amitic, Hilltop, St. Leonard's, and Seaford Town, who were without this commodity for several years, are now receiving water. Yes. Madam Speaker, in my first presentation, I made mention of the well in Petersville, which is said to have gone dry. An area close to the previous well was identified, and the exploration was done. The exploration was proven to be a great success as water of good quality was found. And it is now at the procurement stage and for the design and drilling of the well that will supply water for Petersville and surrounding communities. Madam Speaker, $10 million has been granted through Minister. $10 million has been granted through Minister Mackenzie for the rehabilitation of the community tank and laying of pipelines in the Ashton community. Who have been without pipe water for over 20 years. What? That, Madam Speaker, is prosperity.
What? That's why I resigned.
Madam Speaker, my fellow colleague in her presentation argued that North Chilani boasts the worst roads, but I am here to join with her as Westmoreland Eastern is no different. She's not here.
Inherited.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Inheritance. Yeah. Madam Speaker, we have made significant strides this year as it relates to roads.
Addressing the problem.
All commitments mentioned in my presentation last year have been either completed or in the process towards execution.
Well done, well done. Well done.
So far, we have completed the retrieve to Marchman Road at a cost of over $75 million. Another $20 million was granted and approved for the building of a retaining wall for the same road, a section of the McDonald's Road in Darliston, the Cedar Valley Road in Leamington and Ashton also rehabilitated. The road that is slated to start shortly are the Lime Tree Road. The rehabilitation of the Pinnock Shafton Road is being done as we speak, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Cedar Valley, Pinnock Shafton, and Lime Tree Lane Road were all submitted through my funds from the CDF allocation. For the upcoming fiscal year, Madam Speaker, we are planning on rehabilitating Mall Road in Betheltown and a section of Fustic Grove Road in White House from the CDF allocation. You get a lot of costing for it. Yes. All right. Madam Speaker, there is a patching program coming up that will include the Darliston to Witter, the Darliston to Carmel, Jacksgate to Betheltown, a Kendown to Hopetown, and Stewie to Betheltown. Madam Speaker, there is a Darliston to Hopetown. Madam Speaker, there is also rehabilitation work to be done from Chesterfield to Seaford Town at a cost of $115 million. Witter to Highgate at $320 million. Highgate to Darliston at $147 million. And also Lambs River to Betheltown, 2 dockets is presently being scoped for rehabilitation. Thanks to the Honorable Minister Everald Warmington in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, who toured the constituency recently and saw the plight of the people. Madam Speaker, the road from Witter to Darliston is a critical road for the constituency. It is the main road that serves 3 out of 4 divisions in the constituency. This road has been in disrepair for many years. Madam Speaker, the wait is almost over. Work will begin on the road as soon as procurement is complete. Another $50 million has been granted, again through the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, headed by the Honorable Desmond Mackenzie, for the Beckford Lodge Road in Big Woods to be rehabilitated.
In what?
Big Woods. Thank you, Minister. Madam Speaker, through TBDCO, we are engaged in a $3 million road patching along the Garden and Rotown Road in White House. Madam Speaker, it is an undeniable fact that small business have become a crucial part of our business environment of Jamaica. especially in Westmoreland Eastern. As such, through our office, we continue to assist and encourage small businesses owners. We have assisted over 50 small business owners with grants for their business. Madam Speaker, a total of 300 constituents were identified through my office under the short-term poverty alleviation program through the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. Each individual received a grant of $10,000 each. Madam Speaker, this government is making steady and meaningful strides.
Absolutely.
Madam Speaker, we are living in unprecedented time, and the people of Westmoreland Eastern are in dire need of employment opportunities. Madam Speaker, we have 2 high schools and 2 vocational training centers in Westmoreland Eastern, which produces approximately 500 graduates yearly. Due to the lack of employment opportunities, majority of these graduates migrate to the urban areas to seek employment opportunities. Madam Speaker, the Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, headed by the Honorable Desmond McKenzie, is doing an extremely good job. However, Madam Speaker, the Minister needs more funding to drive the rural development section of his ministry so that it can create more employment in the rural area.
Good point. Transformational. Good point. Good point, sir. Solid, young boy. Solid.
Yeah. Madam Speaker, recently we have been having a serious issue with proper collection and disposal of solid waste, garbage. Madam Speaker, top of weeks, we experience a pile-up of garbage right across the constituency. When contact is made to the NSWMA regional office, we are being told that there are no trucks available or that trucks are serving other areas. On top of it, Madam Speaker, we only have 1 truck serving the entire length and breadth of the Westmoreland Eastern. Minister McKenzie, I am asking on behalf of the people of Westmoreland Eastern, sir, for only 2 of the 50 trucks.
Clear enough. Minister, scratch your head.
Yes, sir.
Minister, scratch your head.
Only two. To be assigned to Westmoreland Eastern. Yeah, just 2. Dege. Yeah. Special thanks to the health team for their relentless dedication and commitment in the fight against coronavirus. Madam Speaker, indeed, COVID-19 has realigned the whole scope of our health sector, which has truly stood the test of time. To the Minister of Health, Dr. Christopher Tufton.
Madam Speaker, I now move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable the member to continue his presentation to its conclusion.
Members, the question before the House is that the member be given sufficient time to complete his presentation. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, colleagues. To the Minister of Health, Minister Christopher Tufton, who has been doing a tremendous job in the fight against COVID-19, we applaud you, sir. And we can't leave out our nice, noble State Minister, Minister Cuthbert. In concluding, Madam Speaker, a lot of work has been done in Westmoreland Eastern, but there's still a lot more needs to be done. Madam Speaker, I am honored to be a part of a government who cares. Commendation to the Most Honorable Prime Minister and Your Holiness for the great work that he is doing in shaping Jamaica into a country of choice to live, work, raise families, and to do business. Madam Speaker, as I continue this diligent journey, I pray that Almighty God will forever grant me with wisdom, understanding, and good health to carry out my duties. Yes. God bless the people of Westmoreland Eastern.
Yes, sir.
And God bless Jamaica, land we love. Thank you.
I want to the truck too.
You want to too. Yes, I respect.
Madam Speaker, I want to applaud the member from Westmoreland Eastern for his presentation and to say today we saw two presentations from two humble members of Parliament who have indicated to all of us how you can serve and serve well with humility. And I really want us all to applaud them. So, Madam Speaker, I now ask that the debate be suspended until November 1st, Tuesday, November 1, when we will continue to hear presentations from other members of Parliament. Madam Speaker, scheduled for next week, Tuesday, will be Honourable Minister Marlene Malahoo Fort, St. James West Central, Dr. Angela Brown-Burke, MP Southwest St. Andrew, and Member of Parliament Denise Daly, St. Catherine Eastern. So, Madam Speaker, I now ask that the debate be suspended.
Members, the question before the House is that the debate be suspended until next week Wednesday, next week Tuesday, when there'll be another sitting of the House of Representatives. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Madam Speaker, I now ask for the recommittal of items from statements by Minister through to presentation of bills without leave of the House, first obtained.
Members, the question is that we revert to the agenda, beginning with statements by ministers. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Statements by ministers. Announcements. Bills brought from the Senate. petitions, papers, reports from committees, notices of motions given orally.
Madam Speaker, we have one item on the notices of motion given orally, which is a motion by the Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, Honorable Marlene Malho Fort. Thank you.
Minister?
Time to change these old things. Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the House, I will move the following motions. Be it resolved, with reference to the resolution approved by this Honourable House on the 25th day of October 2022, appointing a special select committee to sit jointly with a similar committee to be appointed by the Senate to consider and report on a bill entitled An Act to Repeal and Replace the Bail Act and to provide for connected matters, that the name Mr. Philip Paulwell, Commander of the Order of Distinction, Member of Parliament, be added to the list of members. Notwithstanding Standing Order 76-1. Madam Speaker, I also beg to give notice. Be it resolved, with reference to the resolution approved by this Honourable House on the 25th day of October 2022, appointing a special select committee to sit jointly with a similar committee to be appointed by the Senate to consider and report on a bill and act to repeal and replace the Bail Act and to provide for connected matters, that the committee be allowed to hold hybrid meetings that are partly virtual and partly physical, utilizing available information and communications technologies in the manner more specifically outlined as follows. Preserving the rights, powers, and privileges, including voting rights normally accorded to a member of a committee. The committee is hereby empowered to 1. Convene and hold meetings in virtual spaces created using information and communication technologies, which shall be considered committee meetings for the purpose of the mandate of the committee. 2. Allow access and participation from remote locations as are enabled by means of information and virtual technologies by members and other persons authorized by the committee. 3. Include members accessing and participating from remote locations as part of its quorum. 4. Receive, consider, deliberate on, and respond to feedback and submissions in formats, modes, and media, and via platforms, modes, and media enabled by means of information and communication technologies from any person. 5. Consider any and all information generated, communicated, and received by platforms, formats, modes, or media as enabled by means of information and communications technologies as forming part of the record of the committee's meetings. Madam Speaker, I beg to further give notice that at a later stage today, I will move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take these motions.
Questions and answers to questions. Motions that may be made at the commencement of public business requiring notice. Motions relating to sittings of the House. Motions for leave to introduce bills. Presentation of bills without leave of the House first obtained. Public business.
Madam Speaker, I now move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take the motions, notice of which I gave earlier.
Members, the question is that the standing orders be suspended to enable the Minister to take the motions, notice of which she gave earlier. Those in favour? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it.
Madam Speaker, I now move that the motions of which I gave notice earlier be approved.
Members, the question is that the motions, notice of which the member gave notice earlier, be now approved. Those in favour? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. Not your motion, the motions. There are two motions before us, and the two motions have been approved.
Madam Speaker, it is not contemplated for us to do any further business today. I therefore ask that the House adjourn until Tuesday, November 1 at 2 p.m. I want to indicate, Madam Speaker, as I had indicated earlier, we will continue the State of Constituency debate on Tuesday and on Wednesday. And on Tuesday, Member of Parliament Marlene Malahoo Ford for St. James West Central, Dr. Angela Brown-Burke, MP Southwest St. Andrew, and Denise Daly, MP St. Catherine Eastern. And on November 2nd, we will have presentations by the Honourable Robert Nestor Morgan, MP Clarendon North Central, Dr. Maurice Guy, MP Central St. Mary, and MP Morland Wilson of Western Westmoreland when we close the debate. I would say, Madam Speaker, that I look forward to next week for other rich presentations, and I now ask for the adjournment of the House.
Members, the question before the House is that we do adjourn until next week, Tuesday, the 1st of November, and on Wednesday, the 2nd of November, when there will be the final presentation on both days of members in relation to the State of Constituency debate. Those in favour? Those against? The ayes have it. This House is now adjourned.